it's time for the last slot of the day, and I'm so happy to invite up on stage a woman in tech. Talking about how KMP unified our apps and divided our developers, Martina is an Android engineer based in Croatia. Welcome to Romania at Happening, bringing 6 years of experience in the field. You began your career, since you're already here, in 2017, initially focusing on Android development within the game industry. Through your journey, I have research that you embarked on a variety of technologies, starting with Java and expanding your expertise to include newer tools like Kotlin multi-platform. Am I saying that right? Today marks your debut as a speaker at an international conference, and you are enthusiastic about sharing your insights and experiences with us. So let's give her an encouraging welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martina Vidakovic, and I'm an Android engineer at Happening, where I have the pleasure of working with our gaming team. I've been part of Happening for more than 6 years now, and I watched us grow from really a small startup to a global company with over 600 employees. Today, I'm really excited to share with you a quick journey about introducing Kotlin multi-platform to develop more elaborate features in our app. For those of you who are not that familiar with it, Kotlin multi-platform is a technology that allows you to write code for different platforms, namely Android, iOS, and the web, and actually enables you to share the code between those platforms while still remaining all the good stuff that native programming is providing you with. So, in our quest to deliver our app to the users worldwide, we encountered significant challenges, mostly related to our app being available to all the different markets. Each market, give me a second. Each market came with its own set of requirements. Some were driven by legal regulations, and others were driven by product-specific needs. There were considerable discrepancies between our code and how it was implemented, which then led to a complex and fragmented user experience. The problem manifested in several ways. One of the issues we faced was actually the inconsistent implementation on different platforms and different markets, as I mentioned, and how the disparity between those implementations actually was implemented across different platforms. The differences between these implementations led to increased development time in the end, because we had to implement and maintain different functionalities on all of the platforms, and sometimes even write various features that were pretty much the same, but in order to support all those markets. This all led to front-end overhead. We like to call it typology, but we had to implement a lot of different branches in order to support all this. And having all these differences, we also resolved on our front-end side. For example, we had different CMSs, different pipelines, and all this needed to be decided on our natives and web to know which ones to use. This all led to difficult testing. Our testers need to work extra hard to actually be sure that all our features are working correctly. Most of it came from discrepancies in our code base, and also we didn't necessarily have all the documentation that we should have at that point, and a lot of it was already deprecated. In order to actually unify all our experience and our code base, we decided to use Kotlin multi-platform. Because if you write a feature on one platform and then you write the same feature on the second platform and the third one, even though you have the main vision on how it should work, it doesn't necessarily provide you with the functionality that works pretty much the same on all the platforms. So the benefits of using KMP or Kotlin multi-platform were obvious. So we would be sharing the code base for most of the core business logic between platforms, and this should ensure the consistency. It should also simplify our maintenance, because now we would have one place where we need to change or update the code in order to our feature to work the same on all different platforms and the markets. Kotlin multi-platform offers the flexibility. So you can write the code that you can share between the platforms, but you can still write the platform-specific code where needed. Also, the interoperability. Swift and Kotlin are interoperable, so if you write Kotlin-specific code, it can be compiled into something that Swift can understand. The scalability, so right now you can use the Kotlin multi-platform to write this feature, and you can integrate that code into your existing one to make it work with legacy. Or if you need to build something else, you can either write it on Kotlin multi-platform, or you can write it in your own code. So you can actually use what you already wrote. There's also the cost efficiency. This one is really liked by all the managers, because right now you need less development time to actually develop the same feature. And there is seamless integration, but we will get back to it because nothing is really seamless ever. And also it provides you with cross-platform testing, so you can write the tests that will ensure that the code works exactly the same on all the platforms. The biggest disadvantages of KMP are really in getting the initial setup to work. So the KMP became stable at the end of 2023, but the community around it is still rather small, and there is only a handful of libraries that are supporting the KMP. Best practices, guidelines, they are all changing really frequently, which means that you need to be on top of your things and make sure that you are like hand in hand with everything. You will end up with daily changes just because the newity of it, I guess. Any daily updates that you do regarding the technology, libraries, or best practices should not introduce any breaking changes. If you introduce breaking changes, this means that your product teams will suffer because they already have the existing solution and now they will have to change it in order to support it in their platform-specific code. So all this can be a lot, especially if you don't have people dedicated to it. But in Happening, we decided to have our own internal Kotlin multi-platform team that took all of these challenges and make it happen for all of the product teams to use. So about our internal KMP library structure. I don't know how many of you guys are just in mobile development or development itself, but our KMP setup follows the onion architecture layers, which means that we have the data, or the core ones, where we just have like network clients and stuff like that and communicate to different APIs. Then we have the business or domain one. This mostly consisted of business logic, like different calculations and stuff. And then you have the presentation one, and in the end you have the UI. Our internal KMP library enable us reusing all the way to business and domain and even presentation. And it offers support for Android and iOS at the moment. We started with offering support for Web 2, but due to the complexity and just the challenges that we encountered, we decided to put Web on pause and just reconsider. So now we are in the reconsidering phase. For Android, the code gets generated as Kotlin class files, and it is compiled by at JVM bytecode, but for iOS, it gets generated as the Xcode framework library in Objective-C. So, we embarked on our Kotlin multi-platform implementation with remarkable speed. Our iOS guy took the lead. I was doing something else at the moment. And the first draft was completed in about 2 weeks. Everything seemed to be working. And like we were, great. This is the dream come true. So we had pretty much everything except the UI, and it was managed by a single developer. So we were celebrating. We are already saving resources. But then we hit the bump. We pretty quickly realized that our expectations for the KMP implementation were misaligned. Imagine you have built a tree house or a house or something a few years back. You thought you are doing a good job, but like now looking back at it, you want to change a bunch of stuff because now you think you can do better. But this time you will also use your friend because he did the same thing, but just by his own idea. You want to rebuild some of the foundations, for example, and on your side, you think that building the blueprints is a smart idea because you will probably make it work better than without it. But your friend thinks that the job is pretty straightforward. You already did it once. You learned a lot. And you don't need to lose time to develop blueprints in order to continue. So in translation, our iOS engineer wanted our KMP setup to be just a network client. So just like exposing the data, APIs, and everything outside of our KMP, which on Android side didn't make much sense because that would not ensure any consistency, right? You would just have a network client. Android wanted to expose it at least up to a business logic. So we have all the calculations and everything in one place and make sure that it works the same. This led to discussions, intense ones, and eventually we introduced more business logic to the KMP, so we get the most out of it. Since we are working in sports and gaming, I am going to keep the score, so it was 1-0 for Android. But soon after we decided all this, Android faced another challenge. By integrating the existing platform-specific code with the one coming from KMP, we had some difficulties. At this point, we created the blueprints, and we thought we did a good job. But now we are trying to align it with something that already exists, and it kind of happened that we have something like our door opening is pointed to a wall, so you don't have the use of the doors anymore. And your friend found a way to make it work. He will just crush the wall, make a hole, and everything will be fine. But even though it would work, at this point, it would mean that the aesthetics of your house are ruined. So I was not really fond of it, and I didn't want to do it that way. So then again, we had another heated discussion, and we decided to migrate some of our legacy code to our KMP in order to make it work without breaking some major architectural patterns or something we already had in our legacy code. Since we are now 2-0, I hope you all counted, and it doesn't happen often that Android wants an argument over an iOS, I'm going to finish this game. So once we actually completed our KMP setup, we migrated stuff to the KMP that we didn't initially plan to, just to make it work. We came up to some platform-specific code that were iOS-related. This added some oil to the fire. It kind of was a light show. And Kotlin that is being used for Android and Swift that is being used for iOS, even though interoperable, they don't really work the same way. This made our iOS engineer kind of frustrated, which is understandable, because it added more complexity to the iOS side. Luckily, we found a helper tool. It is called Swift Kotlin Interface Enhancer that made things work more seamlessly on iOS side. So Kotlin and iOS don't really share the same concept of sealed classes. So Kotlin has them, iOS doesn't. So the Swift made sure to actually resolve sealed classes into enums on the iOS side, which were then handled by the iOS developer. We have coroutine flows that we are using for async programming. It is not the same thing as iOS uses, but Scheme made it possible to convert Kotlin coroutine flows into Swift async sequence. So it also made it work. We had some issues with it, but everything was like being resolved, and it didn't make some big didn't need some big changes to actually make it work. Then we have suspend functions, which are also being used for async programming, and those are translated into Swift's native async functions. And default parameters were then handled by using overloaded methods. So with our KMP setup nearly finalized, I had to promise I will not do any major changes anymore. And that means that we can actually fully implement it on our platform-specific side. However, though we migrated the features and some of the legacy code, there was still some code that we weren't able to migrate due to its use being extended to other product teams. So we had to make it work. This resulted in some compromises. We had to break some architectural principles. Those were like minor ones, but still we had to do it. And it was promised that it is just in this transitional phase. Thankfully, this was manageable by both iOS and Android, and we promised that we are going to clean it, because cleaning after ourselves is a top priority, especially when you are a developer, right? So, in the end, despite the challenges we faced, which were mostly just the differences between platform-specific architectures and implementations that we weren't necessarily aware of at the start, the benefits of Kotlin multi-platform, such as unified code base, simplified maintenance, and cost efficiency, actually outweigh the initial hurdles and compromises we had to make. This paved the way for a more streamlined and scalable development process at Happening. Whenever you have a larger code base that is also some kind of legacy code, it is also impossible to get all the resources you need to move everything and migrate everything at once, and you will probably have to do it in smaller steps. Sometimes you just need to make a mess in order for you to be able to deep clean, and that's okay. It's just how it is. But it's just making compromises along the way, but it's the only way that you can move forward at that point. To us, it proved crucial to have Kotlin multi-platform team because without their investment into research into research into improving and maintaining the current setup, it would be impossible to follow it up just on the side because things are changing quickly and you will have to do a lot of research. And at Happening, we decided that we are going to extend KMP use to the presentation layer for the features that actually prove to be a good match. So not all the features you will be able to do the same thing because some of the features are being shared across different product verticals, teams, whatever. So just by migrating one feature, you will create more complexity to other teams. So it needs to prove to be a good match. And also having one place where we have our business logic actually did ensure the consistent information and also simplified the issue diagnosis, because now you have like one place and any of our developers can just dive deep and try to find an issue if it exists, and you will know exactly where it is. Also, in our product team, we decided to continue the migration of existing features to Kotlin multi-platform because there are still some that are written just in completely native platform-specific code. But with this, we proved that we can actually make it work, and it is paid off in the end. So since this time here is limited, I have tried to give you a really high-level overview of the challenges we faced. But if you have any more technical questions or you just want to know more about the company, myself, or Kotlin multi-platform in general, you can find me at the booth outside. I will be here tomorrow also. It's the Happening booth, pretty central. You can also probably get some merch. But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting any of you guys and give you some answers if you have any questions. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Martina. Does anybody have any questions, or you're keeping yourself for the booth? You made the invitation.
If they have questions now, I can try to answer them.
Yeah. If they don't, then, well, thank you so much.
You. Also
you
many
have.
questions.
Perfect. Can we get a mic? They were shy.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I tried the QR code. It's not working. No worries.
I tried it 3 times. It was working.
We can solve it afterwards. And the second one, what is your take on Compose multi-platform and its future?
The Kotlin multi-platform team actually started investigating it. I do think that in the future we are going to use it. But right now we are still kind of at the start with it. Not the Compose part, but just like Kotlin multi-platform. We have a large code base, and introducing new stuff is the only way to actually progress and like as a developer and in your code base. But right now we are just trying to slowly introducing Kotlin multi-platform because of all the differences between our teams. It's hard to, Kotlin multi-platform is for sure closer to our Android engineers, Compose too. For example, we started our XML migration to Compose maybe, I would say about a year ago. But we decided to write all new stuff in Compose, but the migration itself is hard. So right now we are having a large code base that has everything, like from XMLs, Compose, even some of the things are still in Eric's Java, coroutines, there is a lot. So it's a big overhead for people coming in, and when you are searching for developers, they need to know a lot of stuff. But I do think that in the close future we will be also trying to get there, because right now we have the presentation layer, if you are familiar with MVVM, so our view models are being written in Compose and you can share them. So not all, but some. But yeah, that's where we are at. But Compose will for sure be a future of Kotlin multi-platform, at least from my point of view.
Thank you.
Did we have another? Go.
Hello. My question would be, if you would start a project from scratch, how would you allocate the team of Android, iOS, and Kotlin multi-platform dedicated developers? Let's say we have a team of 8 developers. How many of them should be like with background in native iOS or native Android, and how would you distribute the workload?
I think that you are good with any number. Like you should have native Android and you should have native iOS, just because you will need to do some native programming in the end. You will not be able to do it just from Kotlin multi-platform side, at least not yet. But the idea, at least in our team, is not to limit yourself to being an Android engineer or the iOS engineer. You are an engineer, and the language and the technology should be a tool for you, not who you are. So I think that we are all trying to learn every day. Our iOS engineer, as I said, took the lead here. So the learning curve is not that big. Like Kotlin and Swift are languages, if you know one, you will pretty quickly be able to actually pick up the other. So it shouldn't be limiting to the language or the technology, but you should have both for starters at least.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our time's up, but I know there are more questions, and you're waiting for them at the booth, right? So you want to take another one? Okay, go.
Hello. So my question is, how does this compare to other cross-platform native solutions like Flutter or React Native that are more popular, have more community support? You can also write the UI in there. Even for React Native, that is for many years, there are still breaking changes from one version to another at this point.
So Flutter is now being abandoned. Not sure if you heard of it, but since like yesterday.
Abandoned?
Yeah, they are not going to continue developing Flutter anymore. And Google is actually recommending you now to go into Kotlin multi-platform direction. The difference between Flutter and React Native and Kotlin multi-platform is that React Native and Flutter, those are not native apps. So Kotlin multi-platform is allowing you to still have the native apps. So like everything you were doing on your like natively, you can still do, but now it offers you the ability to share part or most of the code base between those platforms to make it unified and to actually save resources, let's say.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have energy for another one? The last one?
Go on.
Behind you. Thank you, Martina.
Thank you very much. So from what I understand, you're building games actually with this app. Yeah?
Yeah, I now hear you. Can you repeat, please?
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you use this technology and not a game engine for building games?
Okay, so yeah, that's a bit of confusing part. So Happening is part of Superbet groupation, right? So we are mostly like sports and entertainment, and the games that we are showing are not natively developed. So the games part are mostly from outside providers. We don't build the games ourselves because of the legal regulations and everything. It's really not feasible, let's say that. So that's the reason why we don't use that technology, because we don't build it.
Well, thank you. So many interesting insights. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for
everyone.
your creative questions. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you for joining us here.